Yes, so welcome to the interview part. And as we told you, we have somebody amazing in the studio, and it is her first time to be here and also be in the studios of Rwanda. We are privileged enough to have with us Professor Laine, and she's here to tell us more about what she does, but especially telling us what we can do in improving gender equality in the Rwandan mining industry. So better be all attentive and let's see what she has. And hopefully this conversation is going to be helping somebody out there. So Laine, how are you?
I'm very good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Please. Okay.
Can you tell us more about yourself and what you do so that the people out there can know more about you?
Sure, thank you so much. In Rwanda, I moved here 3 years ago, and I wear a couple of hats. I teach as a professor, and then I also lead my own independent research, and then I also work as a gender and natural resource consultant in Rwanda. But these three roles, they all really feed into each other. So my area of expertise is how we can improve gender equality in natural resource management in African countries.
Wow.
Yeah, so gender equality has not been, something that people are starting to get it now, but it hasn't been there. So why did you focus mainly on improving, making sure that all males and also females have to be all equal in different industries?
Well, part of it is I've always had a commitment to gender mainstreaming and gender equality since I was a child. But I think, depending on how old your viewers are, I think if you've grown up thinking about climate change, environmental outcomes are part and parcel of the way that you view the world and think about the future. Yeah. And so when I started studying rural women in African countries, I began to realize that I couldn't understand their experiences and their outcomes if I didn't understand their relationship with land and the environment that they rely on, right? Because rural women in Africa, environmental conditions determine their life outcomes. So it felt like a natural fit. And then when I moved to Rwanda, I felt so lucky. This is the only African country I can think of that has a mining code and really clear environmental laws, and also has a national gender policy and makes gender equality part of the national agenda. So when you put them together, there's just no better time and no better country for me to do the work that I do.
Has that been easy on your research?
Yes and no. So I think anytime that you are trying to do a very specific task and you're one of the first ones doing it, you're creating something from nothing, right? But I also have to add, I could not imagine feeling more supported than I do in Rwanda. This is a country in which government agencies have been incredibly supportive of my work, and they want to know what I'm studying and what my research outcomes are. There's not that many countries where governments ask me that. And then the universities here, everyone is so eager. And Rwandan young people are so intellectually curious, and they're so innovative, and they're so entrepreneurial that I've also found it really easy to find Rwandans who care about the environment and care about gender to come join my projects.
Yeah. So when you moved here and you started your work in improving the gender equality in the Rwandan mining sector industry, how did you find the situation when you got here? And so far, how is it looking? And what can you say are some of the things that can be improved on through your research and so much more?
So the beginning of what we have to understand is that despite the gender policy in place in Rwanda at the national level, on the ground in local mines, mining is a very male-dominated industry, continues to be. So in Rwanda, only 16% of counted miners are female, which is a very small number. And that number also doesn't always account for, when we think of a miner, most of us think of somebody with a pickaxe and a shovel, but that doesn't account for seasonal miners, part-time miners, all of the people who have secondary jobs providing food or cleaning services that help mines operate. So when we think about the fact that it's only 16% of counted mine workers, we also need to think about all the women who engage with the mining sector but aren't part of that number.
So when you sit down and realize, what do you think makes women be of a small number more than men? Because here it is common for men to dominate depending on the social norms, depending on the education and all that. But what do you think brings all that inequality and makes women lower than the numbers of men that are there?
So first, most African countries not just Rwanda, still struggle with social stigma for women who work in mining. There are untrue and negative stereotypes about the sort of women who seek out mining, and the reality is it is often the most vulnerable women who have to turn to mining because they don't have an earning spouse, or they're single women, single mothers, or they're widows, and so they don't have any choice but to take on this role. So the first thing that I've discovered is the companies that have the highest proportion of women they're the most women friendly, and those women, those small 16%, are really opening up pathways for other women. So the first challenge that we face is reducing the social stigma in Rwandan mining. And the other issue that we face, this is a sentence that I have heard probably every day for the last 2 years, is, well, women don't work in mining because men are stronger and women are weaker. And I really push back against that, because to me, that is not, the issue with that is, how do you want to define strength? So do men have greater brute force and bigger muscles to dig? Yes. But when you look at women, not only are they going to mine 10 hours a day, but they're then going home and doing 5 to 6 hours per day of domestic and childcare work in the home. And they're carrying water, and they're cooking food, and they're cleaning. So if you think about it like that, I say, why don't we define strength in women as endurance and perseverance and the ability to multitask? Why are we privileging brute strength as a measurement and not women's forms of strength, right? So those are what we're working with. And then also, like in all other countries, in Rwanda, most women are on what we say is the lower end of the supply chain. And that simply means women have the lowest paid jobs that are often part-time and that are dispensable. And when you look at supervisory roles, higher paid jobs that come with health insurance, it's mostly men. So it's not just the number of women in mining in general. You have to look at where are women on that supply chain, and why aren't more women in leadership positions in the mining sector.
Yeah. I like that you found all that, and it's really interesting to hear about all the findings. And is there any way that you're trying to spread the awareness that the strength shouldn't be measured in through that way, but should be measured through this way? Are these women trying to understand that they too can be able to make a difference through the mining sector?
Yes, I think one thing that we could do to improve gender outcomes is to advertise the fact that a majority of mining jobs are not about brute strength. We have people who work in offices, who do cleaning, who do cooking, and the majority of mining jobs are open for anyone. Even someone with a physical disability should be able to find a job with a mining company, right?
Yeah.
That's number one. And then I think a second initiative that I would really encourage is to increase the number of young girls who study mining, engineering, natural resource management at the University of Rwanda, at African Leadership University, because the most powerful way that we can gender mainstream the mining sector is to take young female scientists, support them and mentor them through their bachelor's degree programs, ensure that they are placed in STEM job in a mining industry, and then supported to stay in those careers. So I think for all of your young female viewers who are considering a career, if you can get into a STEM field or mining as a bachelor degree student, that really positions you well to have a fruitful career in mining and be one of these trailblazing young women who can help improve gender equality throughout your career.
Yep, so that takes me back to the stereotype that we began with of somebody who is out there who thinks, mining is all about the strength, is all about something that, that is designated straightly for men. What can you tell this person? Is it, something, or is it a place that somebody can go there, earn a living, do what they have to do at their best? What is it, that one thing that you can assure them and make them want to go in the mining industry to begin with?
Yes. So this image we have of digging in the dirt. Rwanda's degree of technological integration into the mining sector is staggering. The amount of advanced machinery and advanced technology, even AI technology, could find its way into Rwandan mining soon. And the more technologically advanced that mining gets, the more conducive it is for female participation, because then we're moving away from that old traditional model of the pickaxe in the dirt. And you can imagine all of these young female mining professionals operating machines and computer screens and using advanced technology to make their contributions in mining. So the best advice I could give is that we should encourage young people, especially young women, to embrace the technological turn in mining, which makes mining safer and makes mining more productive and could help improve gender equality outcomes.
Yeah, so you're also wrapping up an extensive research project. Can you please tell us about that?
Sure. So the Women Conflict in Modern Mining in Rwanda project, I served as a 2021 Harry Frank Guggenheim Distinguished Scholar, which gave me the generous funding to hire a research team. And so we spent the first half of 2021 traveling to every mining community that we could find on a map. There are over 500 official mines in Rwanda. We couldn't go to all of them, but we went to 6 clusters in all 5 provinces to get an even spread. And we did qualitative research with mining communities. And that means we conducted interviews, we did focus group discussions, we did observations, we collected documentation from mining companies. And the goal was essentially to better understand how Rwandan women living near these mining sites are experiencing the Rwandan government's process of formalization. So over the last 10 years, the Rwandan government is endeavoring to close down artisanal, small-scale, informally operating mines and help those mines get legal status, become more technologically advanced, and streamline their operations. So our research question was, how does this impact women?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So you're wrapping up. So what are some of like the insights that stood out for you you as a researcher and you as a team? What are some of the things that stood out throughout the whole process?
So one of my clearest findings is if women leave agricultural work to take a mining job, how does that impact them? And by every measurement, even when women don't earn as much in their mining job as they should because of the gender wage gap, they still earn more than they would at farming. Any mining job is going to create a higher income for women than farming probably would. So that's finding number 1, and I hadn't anticipated that. And then finding number 2 is that when a mining company comes, it changes local governance, right? So we know that in rural Rwanda, you have local leaders. And when you have a problem, you go to your local leader, and the leader or the committee helps you resolve your conflict in hopefully a productive and fruitful way in which everybody gets a sense of justice, right? So when we have mining companies come in, it gets more complicated, because if I'm a woman who is facing some sort of challenge with mining, now do I go to my local leader, or do I go to my mining supervisor, or do I go to the owner of the mine site? And so now, do I take my mining related problems to local government, to national government, or to the mining company? And that presents the question of, what is the relationship of mining companies to governance in Rwanda? Who's responsible for solving what problems?
Wow.
Yes, so obviously, as as you who has started the initiative, there are some outcomes that you really wanted. Did you meet them already, or is there something that you already met, and is there something that you're hoping that will come out of your research and making sure that you make sure that this gender equality in the mining sector is going to be, being put to place, or whatever that you had in mind is going to be met?
Thank you for asking. So as a foreign researcher who is just here to serve the needs of Rwandans, it's really important that I never give recommendations based only on my own perspective, right? I need to get stakeholder engagement from Rwandans themselves. Rwandans know how to solve gender inequality far better than I do, right? I just have to ask and get their input and collect it. So I'm in the middle right now of some workshops and getting some feedback on my work. But we do know, we're talking now about the possibility of maybe having a gender equality seal. You know how there's fair trade coffee? what if there was like fair trade minerals and companies agreed to adhere to certain standards of gender equitable outcomes, be inspected, and then you could buy the main minerals in Rwanda are 3T, tin, tantalum, and tungsten, which are used for electronics. So what if 3T Minerals had like a gender equality seal, kind of like a fair trade seal, and then as a consumer, you could be confident that you were buying a mineral that helped improve women's outcomes.
Yeah.
And then of course, I'm working right now with the University of Rwanda on a gender equality initiative for STEM students to help, of course, support young women in the sciences who want to go into mining.
Yeah.
And then we have some other ideas we're looking at, which is financial literacy training programs for women in mining communities, because many of them, if they work for a mine, they've never earned this much money before in their lives.
Yeah.
And how helpful for them, for someone to come in and say, if you earn this much money, you can save this percent, you can invest this percent, and here's how you manage your money to make sure your family has long-term positive outcomes. So that's really about just educating women about financial management if they haven't had that experience already.
That's so nice.
Yeah, it's good that you're serving the Rwandan people and making sure to listen to them and put their needs first, which is really important.
They know more than me.
Yes.
They know more than me.
100%. So after this research project, what next? What are your moves? Tell us more about that as we wind up.
Oh, that's a great question. So I am very wedded to environmental management policy. So I just finished a project now where we were looking at how COVID-19 impacts climate vulnerable rural populations. So if you are a farmer who's vulnerable to climate change and then COVID-19 happened, what happened when you couldn't get your goods to market? What happened when you couldn't travel to trade with other farmers? So in the coming years, I'd really like to look at one, at how COVID-19 has impacted the mining sector, and two, to bring together the study of extraction and COVID-19 and climate change to have kind of a holistic social and environmental set of recommendations for Rwanda moving forward.
You're doing an amazing job. Keep doing that, and you're helping, the Rwandan community, the mining industry, especially making sure that the gender, the gender equality is being served. Is there any, last remarks, anything that you would love, to tell the Rwandans, the fellow people that are watching us today?
Sure. One thing, it's easy even for me to forget, is I'm doing all of this work on a laptop that uses 3T Minerals.
Wow.
I made my appointment to come here today and talk to you on a cell phone that's made with 3T Minerals. So if there's any message, it would be this. The issue of gender equality and the social impacts of mining impact every single person on Earth because we all rely on electronics.
Yeah.
And this is not an issue for rural Rwandans, it's not an issue for Rwandans, it is an issue for every person on the planet who benefits from electricity, right? So I think every once in a while, I look at my electronics and I try to think about the human beings who went in to those 3T Minerals being in the ground to then being in my phone, right? And that is really humbling and it's really meaningful, and it's a great way for all of us to stay connected to the global labor supply chain.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, so she was about to say she was Professor Laine, and she was teaching us more about what we can improve in the mining industry, especially based on the gender equality. And I hope everybody can, pitch in their ideas. And if you're one of them who is interested, please go on and do something about the mining industry. And it's all for our better, as she said, worldwide when it comes to everything that we need and use on our daily lives. So we thank you so much for coming through.
Yes, feel free to come back and shed some light more on all that. We love to learn more about how we can be able to impact the society, especially putting the gender equality situation forward.
Thank you so much.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, so we'll be right back with more. This is still The Morning Cafe.